This is the Milo Beasley Show. This is the Milo Beasley Show. There's only one thing you need to know. This is the Milo Beasley Show. And now, here's your host, Milo Beasley.
And welcome to the Milo Beasley Show, episode number 344. We're still celebrating our 8th anniversary as of 2 weeks ago. I can't believe we've been doing this 8 years. And I am so stoked for our next guest. Hackers is one of my all-time favorite movies. Plus, then there's Dangerous Minds. Then there's Con Air. Let's just go ahead and get to it. Our next guest. He's an actor, singer, writer, clothing designer. Please help me welcome at this time, Renoly Santiago. How are you doing, man?
Hey, Milo. Hi, everybody. Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So you're in NYC, right? You're a New York.
Yes, I am. I'm in New York City, and today's our first heat wave. It's like 97 or something.
Oh, wow.
Today, yeah.
I'm in Orlando, so it's like that every day.
Wow. I love it though. I gotta say, I like hot better than cold.
Man, I like cold better because I feel like you could put more things on than take off. But I guess again, you're in New York. The grass is always greener, right?
Yes.
So have you been New York your entire life?
Most of my life, yeah.
That's great. Even when you were the 90s with Dangerous Minds, Con Air, Hackers, were you LA or were you still in New York?
Neither. I was actually in New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, because I was going to say most of my life I've been in New York City, but I was born in Puerto Rico, and then I came when I was 4 years old, and we moved to New Jersey, to a town called Union City.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I grew up in Union City, and I went to elementary school there, and then just a town over there's a high school called North Bergen High School, which I attended for beginning of my freshman year, and at that time I was already in the arts and singing and all that, so I was doing theater in New York by the time I was in a freshman year in high school. And then I ended up transferring to professional children's school in New York City. And then I went to school from New Jersey to New York. And then I actually moved to New York when I was 22. So that's
amazing. So when you were younger and you realized this is what you wanted to do, you were doing theater and things like that, and you wanted to move as a high school freshman, what were your parents? Obviously they were super supportive. They let you do that, but what were their thoughts on, somebody who's young getting into the entertainment industry? Because, it can be toxic, but it can also be good at the same time.
Yes. And also I didn't move to New York until I was 22, but I was going to high school here in high school.
Okay.
From New Jersey. Yeah. So I was still commuting on my own as a high schooler, across the state, which where I'm from in New Jersey is just right across the river. It's only like 20 or half hour, but yeah. And, and then my parents' reaction, and also just to backtrack where I made the movies, I did my first 2 films in New Jersey, and then I did Daylight and Con Air when I lived in New York. So that was how those split up. But my family, it was there was really no reaction because there were no performers in my family. I do come from a line of artists though, a lot of people who paint, and my mom was a designer, which is how I got in. I always had a thing for fashion. So it was evident that I was like a singer since I was really small, because they were always putting me to sing at the school, things. And so my mom knew that. And then they knew that I was like that kid that was like that danced in the neighborhood that like people made circles around in the street, those kind of situations. Like, and so that's, I guess, where I got my thing that I liked performing and the whole thing with an audience. And then it just kept snowballing. So it was really natural when I started going to New York to get into a theater class and all of this. It was just my mom, and they didn't really speak English very much. So it was something that I guess they probably saw that I was just getting into, and yeah. But it did, my mom always has this story though. When I did Dangerous Minds and I got in the film, and they came to our home to pick me up to take me to the airport. And Disney has this thing where they always send you like a stretch limo to pick you up, you know. And so like this limo, you know, stopped in front of our house, and my mom started to cry. And then she always says that she always felt like her son was being taken away to this like strange place, you know what I mean? And so that's when she realized. I get a little choked up, I guess, thinking about it, but I guess that's where she thought I might be, you know, on my own, you know, or I'm in danger maybe, or whatever, you know. She always says that's where it hit her, that I was going off somewhere, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I get it completely. I want to backtrack. So a little bit before Dangerous Minds, I got to talk about City Kids both. So City Kid, that was just a theater group before it was a TV show, right?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
a ton of talent.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, it was. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the little link before Dangerous Minds, that something, you know, it snowballed in my life and in the other people that were in City Kids. Because what happened was we were a theater group out of New York, and you know, at the time there wasn't social media, there weren't all these other things, and so like it turned into like a magnet, I guess, for like all these like, you know, fledgling artists that started to go there. It was downtown in Tribeca, which became famous because Robert De Niro got his office there, and then Jay-Z has his office down there. They have apartments and all that, but it was the coolest downtown neighborhood. And here we were, there was a big loft, like, and downstairs the basement was huge, and we would do these like phenomenal things. I mean, we were being led by like very you know, avant-garde, really like artistic directors from New York that wanted to give us, you know, like the experience. And then and you know, they weren't even about fame. It wasn't a thing about fame there. It was more about the actual like work and changing the world kind of stuff. And then, you know, all that started happening. But oh my gosh. And then there's people that a lot of people don't know that were there too, like Lauryn Hill. Right. I brought her there, and I directed my first piece they allowed me to do when I was like 17, and Lauren was my star. And Sarah Paulson,
right,
the actress, of course, that everybody knows, she was there for a few weeks when she was in high school, and it was, yeah, like it was amazing. But that's how that happened. And then it ended up Robert De Niro came down because he was in the neighborhood, and the lady that started City Kids was like old friends with people, you know, she knew people, you know, so like he came down, and Debbie Harry came down, and Quincy Jones. I mean, yeah, it was wild. Like all these really important people would come and watch us, because, and then it gave us more fire because we were like going and going. And I mean, I even remember Naomi Campbell came down one time, and it was so cool. Yeah. And then that's what happened. We ended up getting a TV show, right? Because network people noticed and stuff. So we had one season that we got to do a show, and it was really pretty much ahead of its time. It was before Glee and all these other shows that have come out since. But we were a musical show, right? Urban, and everybody was all up in there telling different stories about city life. And it went on only for one season. But it was okay, because then, and also it was just because it was very new. ABC put it on Saturday mornings rather than like prime time. Yes, because they didn't know, like, it's funny, but like they thought like a multi-ethnic show would like they weren't sure, you know, what that would be like. And yeah, and then that's what happened. And then like, you know, I already was doing the real life thing in New York of the hustle, and I had an agent and a manager, and then they were getting me auditions at that time too, and then that's how that happened. And I got to audition. Dangerous Minds was casted by Bonnie Timmerman, who is one of the top casting directors in film, you know, and she's known for discovering Brad Pitt and other major, all her films have always been on that level, big stuff, you know. And it was Jerry Bruckheimer, so he had her doing that. So it was a big thing break, you know, and that's how that,
That's amazing. And it was a Jim Henson production, right?
The City Kids Show was a Jim Henson production.
Yeah. So you got to, obviously didn't get to meet Jim. He had passed, but did you get to meet the rest of the Henson family? Like Brian, who took over for the company?
Milo, I don't mean to look like a Muppet right now, but like you were so on it, because that's a whole other like amazing chunk of my life. Like, as a, I did get to, I was with the Hensons in and out. I was with the brothers and the sisters and learning everything. And I miss him so, because John passed away. His youngest son, John Henson, was one of my hangout buddies. And now it's even if it wasn't legal, I'll say, we smoked pot together like crazy, and like we used to have so much fun. And he invited us up to his house in Woodstock, and he had a schoolhouse that me and this girl Diane and this other guy Barry were like always together, and he invited us up there, and he converted, the movie Labyrinth, where they have all that like stuff with all the incredible wood and the creatures, right. And that's how he was building that schoolhouse. It was crazy. I was only 17 at the time. And I always think about these things, because even while they were happening, I was always thanking God. I was in shock. I was like, I can't believe I'm at Jim Henson's son's house. I'm seeing these carvings and things that he's doing. He was a genius. It's a genius family. And I was so honored to be this young Puerto Rican kid from humble, background, to be around these great people that gave me those wonderful experiences. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You had to think, man, I'm hanging with the Hensons, and it's all downhill from there.
So I know, really. That's why even when I did Dangerous Minds, all these other movies, like, it was not, it was, of course, not downhill, but it was, right. Again, like, it was sort of like these things that were going on that I really felt, that I guess there was a sense of purpose in it all, But yeah, and I still carry those things I learned from the Henson company as a professional and as a creative type, as a writer. They because not only was I a star on the show, I was also a writer on the show. I was only 17, so I was on a table, and they were so nice to do that to me and do that for me. They just decided to kind of offer, because I helped write the pilot, and then since it got picked and it was nominated for an Emmy, they all of a sudden said, let him be a writer too. And I was credited as a creative creative consultant. Creative consultant was my title. But I would sit at the writing table. I would offer so I learned all about what it's like to create a TV show. And from beginning to end, we had the producer was a woman who produced The Cosby Show, Adriana Trigiani. So, she took me under her wing during that. So that was really cool. And then I got to also take workshop classes on how to be like a Muppeteer and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, trust me, I can't believe that experience.
Oh my God.
Both of us are like, I know.
I got like goosebumps right now, like just thinking about being there and that experience. Yeah. And then, so was Dangerous Minds, was that your first like feature film?
Yes. Yeah.
That's incredible. And so what was it? Yes, it was acting. It was a scene, but what was it like being on a date with Michelle Pfeiffer?
Oh my gosh. You're so funny for saying that, because I thought about that the other day. It hit me, and I thought, you got to do a date scene with Michelle Pfeiffer. And it's so funny you bring that up, because there's so many things you don't like hang on to too much, because, when it's you and you're doing these things, it's like you want to be as pure as possible, as natural as possible. And, I also don't hang on to things that I feel could turn into like, almost like you don't want to let go of the past. You know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, you're right. That shit was amazing. And excuse me for cursing, but yeah, you got it out of me. What am I going to say? Yeah. Gorgeous. The most beautiful. I can't even. She really is that beautiful, and the talent, to witness in person, we did, by the way, everything was in one take. in that whole movie. And it wasn't planned. You know, when you make films, you don't plan it that way. Like, you know, you do what you need to do. But of course, I mean, this is why the hiring process is so intense. They want to hire people that are going to do it and get it right. You know, time is money and all, you know, so everybody was so, but the cool thing was to see Michelle Pfeiffer, you know, be that on it. I mean, everything in that movie you see, the audience know that it was right there in that moment. Like when they said action, that's what you're seeing. It wasn't like, oh, let's do it again. Oh, she missed this, she missed that, or that didn't feel right. No, like this is a story that is so told from the heart, and the director did not direct because and that's only because he didn't need to. Right. But he didn't need to ever say anything to anyone about do this, do that. I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, I remember, you know, Dangerous Minds, and of course, you know, Gangster's Paradise by Coolio, one of the biggest songs literally of all time. Hackers, amazing soundtrack. It's one of my honest to God favorites of all time. Do you have a favorite movie soundtrack?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do actually. I mean, there's always one that's always going to come to mind for me, which is Fame. Yeah.
That's
yeah, the songs by Irene Cara, and that, I mean, the moment you hear the songs, they're amazing. You know, I can say that because I also teach, you know, singing classes, and I have a 12-year-old that I teach now. Is a wonderful student, and the other day I you know, thought to play her Out Here on My Own from Fame by Irene Cara, and the moment it started, she was like nodding her head like yes, 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 you know. So that song, that soundtrack, and you know, oh, I was gonna say no, it's not a Jerry, but Flash Dances with Irene Cara also did that, but that's a Jerry Bruckheimer movie, Flashdance. Yeah.
Those are some good choices.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about teaching in NYC. So is it just singing? Are you teaching acting? Like what is it that you teach?
Well, I mean, right now I'm teaching an acting class, and I'm teaching homeless children. And
That's amazing. That
yeah,
speaks.
thank you. And I mean, I'm doing it with a group called Losaida, which is a Lower East Side, you know, community organization that's been around for like over 30 or about 30 years at least. And it was started by a Puerto Rican poet, and they're amazing, and it's just so cool. They do all these really cool stuff, like the Lower East Side, the spirit of that neighborhood. And so they we were connected by a mutual person that we both work with, and they, you know, they offered the class to me, and I want to work. I've always wanted to do something with them. I love their initiatives and everything. So it's in the Bronx, and you know, it's blown my mind. The kids are so normal and natural. You would never know that they're homeless, really. And the talent and the I mean, it's so mutual and gratifying in both ways. And I'm just so grateful that they are really, really enjoying the class. That's awesome. So yeah, and they're little kids. I mean, I'm teaching. They don't know that how famous I am or any of that, really. They're like my youngest. I was supposed to have like from like 7 years old to like 16, but it ended up being 5 now to like 8 years old, and it's
That's
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mentioned, you know, I mentioned Hackers several times. It is really one of my favorite movies. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, you got to work, I mean, first off with Angelina Jolie, which was did you realize at the time how much of a megastar she was going to be?
Yeah, in a way I did. Believe it or not, I thought that in a way I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I guess it's crazy to see, you know, people who you're on a project with who do blow up to become, you know, some of the biggest celebrities in the entire world. But So I have to ask, do any of those tricks really work?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, there has to be some way. I have heard with the phone freaking that there was a way to, sort of trigger it where there could be like a free call or whatever. Um, but I don't actually know because, and it's funny, like when I talk to heavy duty hacker and they're like do interviews with me, I mean, most of the time they're loving it, but I've had like one or two that are like, that's not quite how you gotta like, and I'm like, it's not a how-to movie. Come on, guys,
Right.
what are we gonna teach people how to hack? Hello, like
Right.
it's a movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's creative, But yeah, so yeah, it's not real, But not to say that. I mean, anything's possible in the way that things always change, right? I mean, So it's not like it's so far-fetched, but yeah. Most
Yeah.
of it though, yeah. And of course most of it is accurate. I mean, most of it is, but not, to
Right. And Fisher Stevens was amazing, in it as well. I mean, the entire cast was just phenomenal, which makes it, again, one of my favorite movies of all time and a huge cult classic. But while you were filming it, were you like, man, this is a weird movie, I don't think it's ever going to catch on? Or were you like, oh, this is going to be good?
Well, I mean, I am so fortunate to that. Like everything I've done, I got a good vibe. Like, but I also have a rule that my best friend thinks I'm so good at having this rule. I don't know why other people, but I'm very protective about like the future. I never project any bad anything on anything. You know what I mean? Like I'm very like careful with that, and I don't even allow like my closest friends, like when they talk on the negative, I'm like, please don't do that. Can you switch it? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, they know it's like almost like I'm not superstitious, but it's definitely like a little thing I don't. So I know I was like, I thought that it was going to be good. I thought it was going to, but it was so cute. I remember our first rehearsal when we did our group. The director wanted to mingle us together and try a few scenes. Now, normally in film, it's really interesting. There's no rehearsal. Like normally in film, you get the part and then you get your schedule and you do all your prep and then the days are there, like the shoot is there, and yeah. But with Hackers and Dangerous Minds, actually there were 2-week rehearsal processes. One for Hackers was because we needed to learn some computer like maneuvers, so
Right.
they wanted to make sure that at least we knew how to sign, because this was all newer back then. So how to sign into a laptop, how to go on the internet,
Right.
and then like how to rollerblade. We had to take 2 weeks of rollerblading because
Oh,
we
I
were
didn't
gonna.
think about that.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that fun? So we did that for 2 weeks, and it was everybody fell except me. Angelina cut her hand open, and that was one of the moments where she had like showed that she was like had a different side, because when she cut her hand open, it was like bleeding, and she was like, where I would have been freaking out, pissed off. And then I was like, okay, this girl's kind of different, because she was beautiful, she's so beautiful. And like her hand was cut open and she thought it was like a prize, she thought it was so like cool. So that was like the first hint that she was a little bit goth coming on with the blood vials, right?
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, but then finally when we were shooting, I fell. So we all got to fall because, so that was inevitable. And so that was it. And so during those 2 weeks there, we had that first rehearsal one day, but we didn't even rehearse a lot of scenes during those two. But that first day, the director's like, can we try this scene? So we did it. And then we were quiet. And then there was like a little fire escape, that one of those fire escapes that opens through the door, and it's not a window, it's a door that leads to the fire escape, and then you can sit and go down the stairs. So all of us, the actors, sat on that fire escape during a little break, and we're quiet, and Angelina goes, it's gonna be good. And then that's how. So it's funny that you asked that question, because that's literally reminded me of that, like that first rehearsal. And then Angie was quiet and she was like, it's gonna be good. And it was so sweet, because she was basically kind of saying like, everybody's so good, because we got to act together. We didn't know each other before that, and so we all jumped. That's it. It was the Phantom Phreak was there, Serial Killer was there, Acid Burn, Zero Cool, Joey. We all came to life, Lord Nikon at that moment. And yeah. So yeah. But I did think it was gonna be cool. I didn't think it was gonna be weird. What I did think was that the script was not like, it didn't scream anything to me right away. Like I was like, okay, take it and do it and just see. So like it didn't say that we were dressed very wild and unique. There was only one character that actually said that, which was about when you saw the Phantom Phreak description, it said he's dapperly dressed. And so I kind of knew, oh, okay, so my character likes to dress kind of like put himself together. And
Right.
then when we got to the creative team and the days of pre-production and our costume fittings and stuff, we saw all this fashion and all this crazy stuff. And then that gave us an idea, oh, it's going to be that kind of vibe. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because one of your most famous scenes from the movie was quite the opposite, and you were barely wearing any clothes. I mean, how is it standing on a bed in your boxers, just being surrounded by people?
Oh my goodness, Milo. Great question. It was so embarrassing. Embarrassing. I mean, I was like 21 or something, you know? So I'm like, okay, did I even, like now, I mean, to be honest, I'm in better, I'm in the shape that I don't mind doing a nude scene, but I mean, come on, this is years and years and years and years after being an actor and having to go in your underwear in front
Right.
of the world, So yeah, that after that, I was like, oh my gosh, because that's what happens. You get to, you go become an actor, and then they have you like, okay, you're gonna jump in a cliff, you're gonna jump off a cliff, and you're like, wait a minute, how did this, yeah. So it was really embarrassing, but nobody could tell. But now that you asked, yes, I was like, oh my God, this is like, I'm in my boxers here. Great.
A couple of years ago, before the pandemic, I was lucky enough to be able to see Paul Simon in concert, and you got to work for him on the Cape Man production on Broadway. I mean, what was did you got to meet and work with Paul Simon himself, right?
Yeah.
Did you know at the time how big of a deal Paul was, and that, like, man, you have to work with a legend?
Yeah, that was again another surreal moment, that was, Marc Antony and I worked on Hackers together, right? And we became like best friends. And he heard me sing, right away. I was like, I'm a singer, you know what I mean? So I sang for him right away, and he was like, whoa, you can carry a note, and like, so but our friendship was not about singing all the time. And we were just like, we were crazy together. We had so much fun. Oh my God, he's so silly. And Mark is a very, very silly guy.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
very silly.
I would not
Okay.
think that.
I'm silly, but he is silly. So you can imagine we were two clowns. I mean, he does the physical. He's crazy. Like, he's funny as hell. So, we were two funny, crazy friends. So then he tells me when we get back to New York, Paul Simon, he's doing this thing or whatever. And I think he would be perfect for the part. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, Mark, I've always wanted to be on Broadway, which was true. I mean, this was like my dream. So I'm like, you're kidding me. Oh my God. So then he's like, I'm going to set you up with Paul then, because, he's like, you want, because he wanted to see if I thought I would, be into it. And so then lo and behold, like 2 and 3 days later, I get a call at my home, and he tells my mom, I remember, was like, oh, Marc Antony called. He said to call him. It's very important. And so I called him, and he's like, Renoly, Paul wants to meet you. He's better than me. Blah, blah, blah. He gave me the information. So here's the thing now, get this. He gives me Paul Simon's address, right? And so, I mean, thank God I had done all the things I'd done, because, so I was pretty calm about it when you want to really think about, the situation. But, I went over to his house. I mean, he answers the door. I remember them he lived in a penthouse in, Central Park West, one of those buildings. And I, get let into the building through this, doorman, and then come on. And then so when the door opens, the door cracks open, and it's Paul Simon's. Like, I will never forget, how I, so he's like, cracks the door open, and I see that, you know what I mean? And then he's like, this little gentleman, and he brings me inside, and whatever. And he's so gentle and so soft spoken and such a sweet man. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I guess, you know, you can see, feel from him right away. And of course, me being an artist, I know that that's where his gift also comes from. You know, it's his you know, sensitivity, you know, and so he's that way all the way, and he treats everybody the same. I mean, he could be a pharmacist, you know, for all anybody knows. He's very calm and very, you know what I mean? The same with everyone. And so then what happened was he led me in, and it's funny, I do remember that I almost went the wrong way. Like, he leads me into this palace out of nowhere, right? And so I went the wrong way, and I remember he went, no. And I was like, okay, because I almost went, I guess, into like the living area or something. And then he guides me, and so we go into this gigantic studio, gorgeous work area, and he had a engineer there, and Marc was there. And Marc was recording demos for the show. And so then they stopped everything, and Marc, then I brought myself singing back in these days on a tape. And, you know, Paul decided to play it, and thank God. You know, and Marc said, too, when Marc heard it, I remember he said, whoa, you know, he really liked it, so that was good. And then Paul right away started to tell me about the piece, and then he proceeds to give me like a whole presentation on this play that he's been working on for 10 years or something. And I tell you, he played the entire soundtrack for me from beginning to end, explaining this whole musical to me. And imagine, I'm listening, and it's like a private I mean, he's singing along sometimes, and the music I'm listening to, I mean, anybody at home, and if you listen to the Broadway original cast recording of this, the music is astounding. And then he says to me, would you like to do it? And I mean, of course, I'm like, oh my God. And I say, yes, of course. But it was the strangest thing, Milo, because when you look at the kid, the two people that Marc and I were playing, it was like meant to be. Like, I actually kind of looked like this kid that I was playing. And I mean, so there was a lot of like the universe at play, you know, with it all. Yeah. And that's how my whole experience, I worked with him for almost 10 years, and it feels like, or 8 years. And it was, he was he's like an uncle. He's a buddy. I mean, we were very tight. We spent a lot of time alone together. I learned so much from him musically. And he's very strict, and he stops you he's the one person I've never seen stop a singer a million times. But he likes things a certain way, you know, and I love listening to his direction, and he's a king. He's just marvel. I mean, I can't say enough. Yeah.
Man, it's that's, yeah, I can't imagine, you know, first off, him opening up the door and being like that, but being able to work with him and for him, and that's absolutely incredible story. Next thing I want to ask about is maybe one that is maybe a little bit down there. I have where'd we go? All right, testing.
Hi.
All right.
Hey.
So the next thing I want to talk about, mainly because I have a lot of fans of the show that are wrestling fans, and you did a project called Not Another Romantic Wrestling Comedy. Now, you weren't involved in the wrestling scenes at all, but did you go in there and attempt any of the training, any of the moves or anything while you were on set?
Oh, and I love it. You almost got the title right. That's Kim Sky, the writer and director, with her long title. Hilarious. Not just another romantic wrestling comedy. If I got it right. I think it's that. It was so much fun making that movie. It was a small role that my manager just thought it was a fun script and wanted to connect me with this comedy writer. And thank God she did, because we became such good friends, and we've created other stuff that is yet to be seen. It's in development. But we wrote a comedy series together for me to star in, and I'm so excited about that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And no, I didn't do any wrestling training for that or any of that. It was all just, but it was fun speaking in English and in Spanish with the character. That was like a fun thing to do.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, there's the scene outside the shop was by far. I mean, I feel like that stole the entire movie.
Oh, thank you. That was a lot of fun. Thanks. That was her idea, and I thought it was cool.
Yeah. So a thing here, let me get it back up, up. A thing we like to do here on the Milo Beasley Show is called the Milo Beasley Show Frequently Asked Questions. I'm going to ask you the same 5 questions that I ask all my guests here on the Milo Beasley Show. So there's no wrong answers, just first thing that pops into your mind. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Question number 1. What was the first concert you attended?
Paula Abdul.
What? That's amazing.
Awesome. She was so good too. I'll never forget it. Madison Square Garden.
Wait, so your first concert was in Madison Square Garden?
That I saw, yeah. Totally. And it was Miss Paula Abdul.
That's amazing. That's prime stuff right there.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, it was amazing. She was amazing. I still remember. So good. Boy, she was on point. It was a hot show because she's a choreographer too as well. And yeah. Oh, it was amazing. Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Have you had some weird stuff happen?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
But they don't scare me. Yeah, no, I have a thing about not being afraid of ghosts. But I do notice things, like I don't know if this happens to other people at home or yourself, but my kitchen shifts on its own sometimes. So I find that interesting. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like things like, I don't know, where something will clunk. And it's like, because there's no wind in my kitchen, at least. I don't have a window in my kitchen. So, but then of course it's shifting, right? But then you think, what the F is shifting? That means that there's an energy shift. What happened there? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a plate was like just about like this for months and then finally went clunk. Like, so that, you see what I mean? So yeah, that's like a sound that I hear in my kitchen sometimes. And you really want to know, I guess I should share because this is going to bug you out. But I have had, and this, think what you think, everybody, but you asked the question. I've had some psychic experiences that's what makes me, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
2, well, one is already in public, which is that I dreamt 9/11 the night before it happened.
Oh, man.
It really messed my head up for years because I don't know I have no control over these little things that happen, and I don't know what it meant because that was my question. How could I have saved anybody? Whatever. I was in my sleep. What I dreamt was that I was at the restaurant, Windows of the World. I had never been there. And then we ended up on the roof, and then I see 2 things coming at us, and I think, are those aliens? And then I thought, no, those are planes coming at us. Yeah. And then I turned around. I knew I had a friend next to me. Her voice went away in the dream. She couldn't speak. And I knew I was going to be okay. And I turned to the stairs, on the roof where the door is to go to and that's when I woke up to the phone ringing, which at the time was 8:47 a.m., which is the time that the first tower was hit. And it was my mother calling me. And so that was one of the wild. So that's led me to believe that there is something else. I could go into another on that, but I'll just leave it at that with that experience. And then the most recent one, they don't happen often. They only happen to me every couple of years. Something that is wild. Yeah. So the last one was during COVID in my hallway. And I've had things that tend to happen in the hall for me in things. I got a thought that if a dog died, what would happen? Like, they would probably say, like, you got to put him in the freezer. This was during the beginning of pandemic. And then I get a call from my neighbor literally next door. I think my dog is dead, she says. And I tell her, call 311, and then, which is the services information. And then she tells me, because I call her back like at 11 o'clock at night to find out, because I'm like this. And she tells me they told her to put her dog in the freezer.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So, not to get off topic, but how close were you to 9/11? Like, how far away were you living?
70 something blocks. I lived on 78th Street at the time, and so the New York streets start to number at about like 11th, 10th Street, 9th Street, and then it's like downtown names. So I was like about 80 blocks, 90 blocks away from the site.
That's not far at all.
I guess it's really, for Manhattan, it seems far, but you're right. It was not far. I feel that it was also that instinct, like they say birds and animals get when there's going to be like a storm, they tend to have a like, I thought of that. I thought, wow, like, could it be that, like, but then what is that? That's amazing. So yeah, that's the only reason why I tell the story, because I'm like, because I was thinking like I couldn't warn anybody. There were faces in the dream in the restaurant. I could see everybody's heart, like feel their heart, but their faces were blurry in the restaurant.
Right.
And yeah, that always made me feel like maybe I had fans that died, and that they were people that I felt like loved me, and I probably loved in another realm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's so. I know we got into it with that one, but yes.
Answer yes. So our third question, and it's a little bit of a twist on a common question, but in a movie about your life, who would play your parents?
Whoa. Well, I think Nancy Tickleton did a phenomenal job as my mother in Hackers. Of course, that's when she's like, yelling at me, and that's kind of funny, but still, she really looks like me and looks like my mom in some ways too. So she did a great job. So she would do a great job playing my mother too. Right. And my dad would have to be like, somebody suave, somebody. I mean, he's not active now, but is Pierce Brosnan okay? Brosnan?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different era, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. See, I like this question because you get a feel about people's parents and their upbringing and stuff. So yeah. Question number 4: who is your favorite person to follow on social media?
Whoa. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I have a few. Oh.
Uh-oh. Oh, we froze again.
Cut off again for a second there. Did you see how wild that is? He's a futurist, and he speaks like he's just like a phenomenal philosopher. Like, I don't know if he's on mushrooms or what, but boy, is he taking it to town. And he can really give you some quotes to live by. I mean, he's amazing. That's all I can say.
All right. So, and then question number 5.
Was that?
You've worked with a lot of people. You've worked with a lot of names, either on Broadway, meeting people, in movies. Do you have what was your biggest fanboy moment where you? Oh, I think we're still frozen.
Are we back?
I think we're here. Let me try something. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, boom. We are perfect. Or we're right back on schedule. All right. So, yeah, whether it was on a movie set, just out and about, on Broadway, out in New York, what was your biggest fanboy moment where you saw somebody and you just had to meet them?
Okay, because there's a bunch, actually, now that I'm thinking. But the winner would have to be, and especially since you said that I had to meet, because this is one time that I actually ran up to them and I never do that, Madonna.
Where did you meet Madonna at?
She actually, and because again, I don't come from a lot of money, like I said, so I always had to meet people. I'm so grateful by them coming to see me perform, because I couldn't afford to go see them. So I could never buy a Madonna ticket. And then one day, here I am starring on Broadway, and she came to the show to see us in the Cape Man. And it was crazy.
Oh, OMG.
I know. That was crazy. And what happened was, there was the cast never panicked when somebody was there, but everybody kept talking about Madonna that night behind the stage, and I was getting a little annoyed because I'm in character. Like I was like, I don't want to hear who's in the. I mean, I get it, but like leave it, But oh, she's there, and then somebody was like, she's in the third row, and I was like, great. Now I don't. So I tried to get it out of my mind. And then I'm getting dressed, taking my time, getting ready to leave. And I go downstairs to the green room area. And for the first time, it's packed. Like it's like a freaking concert back there. It's never been packed. I'm like, what is this thing? And then I see a lady walk by, hunched over, really skinny, with her and she reminded me as she walked by of Betty Davis. And so I run by and I see this figure and I think in my mind, oh, she's very Barry Davis kind of. And I run into Marc's room and I'm like, Marc, and I'm like, I gotta meet her. I'm sorry. Where is she? And he's like, she just left. And I thought, oh my God, that was her. And then I ran, swung the metal doors open, boom. And Madonna is there with her best friend at the time, Ingrid Casares. And guess what? This is another bragging moment. I'm not trying to brag, but this is the story. What can I say? The driver, Madonna's driver, happened to be my driver during the show. His name was Armando, and he was like he became my best friend too, because we talked every night and I would always ask him about Madonna because he told me he would. So I said, Armando, please. So that Madonna was like, who is this? Because I stopped them from leaving and he stopped, so she's like, who's ordering my guy around? And then she turns around and I reached out my hand and I was like, Madonna, I just want to thank you, and I got to hold her hand. I thanked her for coming and all that and whatever. Yeah. But that's what.
Yeah, that's one heck of a moment.
Yeah. It sure was.
So what can you talk about as far as future projects? I saw you have a project coming out called 3 Days Rising with Mickey Rourke and Ice-T.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible cast as is.
Thank you. Well, it's really cool because this one is produced by one of my closest friends, this producer named Noel Ashman, and I'm really proud of him. He's making like a lot of big movies and stuff, and so he's always like, oh, I want to get you in my movies. And then this one came along and I was like, are we going to keep talking or what? And he's like, because I think he wanted me to play like a bigger part and stuff. So I'm like, look, just throw me in your movie already. So I played a part in this, where like, it's a murder and me and my girlfriend walk into this whole thing. It's a really, from what I hear, it came out great. Like a lot of the technical people from the film have reached out and were like, you were so good in the movie and stuff. So it looks like it's going to be fun. And so it's 3 Days Rising. Yeah. And it's based on an Edgar Allan Poe book.
Oh. Yeah.
It's a scary and it's a thriller.
Oh, that's awesome. I would hope so if it was based on Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
So one of my Edgar Allan Poe and I share a birthday.
Oh wow!
Yeah, January 19th. Do you know? Is there anybody who you share a birthday with that you know
of? I don't know exactly, but I have a very interesting mystical birthday. It's March 15th, which is the Ides of March. So I've always, and I don't know, I do have a very like out of this world life. So I always wonder if those things are tied, those kind of, because it's a very mystical, like they usually refer it to the Shakespeare line, beware the Ides of March in the Julius Caesar play. But the real story goes further back than Julius Caesar, because that's when, if people don't remember, he got stabbed behind the back from his I guess his council or whatever, or his men that were his Congress or so and so. And so that happened on March 15th. But March 15th, the Ides of actual March goes further back. It's like a new year portal in the universe. And like, it's like a karma day where like, if whatever you put out on that day, that's your year in a way, is what they believed. Right. And that's where the day I'm born. So it's kind of like, woo, woo, woo,
I actually was married on March 15th.
Oh my goodness. So there's a lot of energy there. I hope it's going well. Are you still married?
Yeah, absolutely.
Woo! So it's a good you're on the good side of it. But do you guys have incredible stuff that happens?
I mean,
talk to
yes,
celebrities.
we've been absolutely blessed. So,
Amen. Yeah, I mean, again, I feel it's a very good day. Obviously, I've had a lot of amazing things happen, but yeah, it's a day that I just happened to find out was a very unique day, and so that's what I know about the March 15th, Ides of March. And of course, I'm thinking now, since you got married on it, you have a lot of love on that day, so that's good. That brought a lot of, I'm sure, good. If you believe in that, I don't even believe in these things myself, but I know I like knowing about them. But there you go.
So before we wrap up, anything else? Anything else left to say to our folks watching?
Just that, thank you so much for all of the love over the years, and I look forward to doing a lot more great stuff for you guys. And I send you lots of great energy and lots of blessings to you all.
And if folks want to follow you on social media, website to buy some Phantom Freak merch, where can they go?
Absolutely. Well, you can find me as Renoly Santiago online on Facebook and Instagram, and I am on Twitter as The Real Renoly, and on Snapchat as Renoly Santiago, and TikTok. And you can also follow my clothing line at RenolyNYC.com, and I have some really cool slogans and t-shirts and graphic designs and sneakers that you can get on there. And the site for the merch and autographs and requests and video requests is phantomphreak.com.
Right down there. So hopefully people can see that and check that out. Yeah. So thank you so much for spending some time with me this evening. I absolutely 100% enjoyed it.
Well, thank you, Milo. I did too, man. It was awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, again, thank you for hanging out with me, and thank you everyone for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, but most importantly, tell your friends, and we'll see you next week. Oh, wait, I gotta hit the button. Uh-oh. Hit the button.